Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Fisher and I'm doing a solo video today just on the YouTube channel. So if you prefer podcast formats and you see this is available on YouTube, just watch it here. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, this is my AEW review of the week, as promised yesterday. If you haven't watched the WWE section, me and Keeney give a good hour, 20 minutes-ish of WWE content, reviewing Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and talking about the news of Survivor Series War Games being announced as well. So that is something for you to watch on our channel or listen to on podcast format if you prefer. That is out now. So yeah, follow us on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle for more information on those as well. And get to the links to the podcasts and stuff. But yeah, let's talk about AEW. So I'm doing it on my own today. Wasn't sure whether I was going to have Keeney on or not, but he hasn't quite had the time to get on the video. So I will do a summary of Rampage very briefly, and then Dynamite Grand Slam, because that was a big show and with plenty of talking points. 3 title changes, debut, all sorts going on. Felt like a big show this week. And we'll talk about maybe the effects of Punk and the Elite not being on the show, which has had surprising results, I think, so far. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go through Rampage briefly first. What I will say about Rampage is the show is nice and short, but a lot of the time it doesn't have too much relevance. I know this Friday is the Rampage Grand Slam, so that will probably have a little bit more of a bigger impact. But here we had Matt Hardy versus Darby Allin, a match we've seen, of course, before. First time Matt's been wrestled on TV for quite a long time. Match was okay. Darby won it in the end, which is the right result. The lights went out. Julia Hart appeared, and Brody King took out Matt Hardy, then called out Darby and Sting for a match, 2-on-2. But it wouldn't surprise me now if you get Matt Hardy sort of help Sting and Darby Allin here after he got attacked here. But that was interesting angle after the match. We had a Claudio Castagnoli promo to set up the match with Jericho for Grand Slam. Penelope Ford versus Willow Nightingale was a decent match. Kip Sabian watching on. Ford won it with a submission. You had a quick Ethan Page Danhausen match, obviously a squash match for Paige. And then you had the main event of Samoa Joe versus Josh Woods. Don't know a lot about Josh Woods. Great to see Samoa Joe back healthy in wrestling. He won in the end with a muscle buster. Attack afterwards by Sterling and co. But Wardlow come down and made the save and helped Samoa Joe. So we may get something there. But Wardlow needs a proper feud. I think he's just sort of floating around. I mean, we said this at the moment. I think he's lost a bit of his momentum that he had when he was he won that title. It kind of seems to have disappeared a little bit, which is a shame. Sorry, just adjusting my microphones very slightly. Right. Then we got to Dynamite Grand Slam then, and this was a huge show, like I said. So first of all, we got that Ring of Honor title match that was set up on Rampage. Chris Jericho versus Claudio Castagnoli. They had a really good match. I think it might have been my match of the night, actually, to be honest. It was a real good match. So many near falls, so many counters. Jericho busting out some stuff I haven't seen him do in a long time. There's a really cool top rope Hurricane Rana that he did. There were some really good counters. Like I said, the code breaker was into an uppercut. Claudio did a springboard into Jericho doing a code breaker. So there was lots of stuff going on. And then we had all the sort of the ref distractions, Jericho grabbing the bat and all that kind of stuff. And with a low blow and Jericho hitting the Judas effect to win and become world champion in Ring of Honor, which I think is a bit of a surprise. I don't think people saw this one coming. And, I've seen some criticism online about this. Is this the right decision? Because Claudio hasn't had the title that long. It was cool for him to have the world title. And Chris Jericho, as a veteran, does he need the title in 2022? I can see both sides of the argument here. If you're doing a weekly TV show for Ring of Honor, having Chris Jericho as the face of it at the start of the brand will help it. It helps AEW when they put the title on him at the start, I think that might be Tony Khan's thinking. So I get it from that point of view. But is it, do you want to keep relying on Jericho going over all the time? Seems to be a bit of a pattern. Obviously, it's cool for Jericho because he's won titles everywhere he's gone, basically, other than he's never been in Ring of Honor before, so Ring of Honor world title for him is cool. But for Claudio, I think it's a bit of a shame. And he's fairly new to the AEW product. It was a cool thing for him to win, and he's lost it quite quickly. So I can get it from both arguments. I think there's pluses and negatives to this. Overall, I think it's just a case of we'll see how it goes. If it is because of if the TV show starts up soon, if they do start a Ring of Honor show soon, then I think I'll get it. If it doesn't, and it just carries on, and it's more to add fuel to the storyline between Blackpool Combat Club and Jericho Appreciation Society, which has been going on for too long. I feel like we've had nearly every combination now, including this. Then I'm not overly keen. What you can do is obviously Daniel Garcia is still that storyline still ongoing with him and sort of Willie joined Jericho, Willie joined Danielson. He didn't join in the celebrations here really, and obviously he has a Ring of Honor title too, the Pure Championship. So you can play a storyline into there that could make it interesting as well. So there are things you can do with these titles that I think can grab interest now. But I just hope Claudio moves on to something relevant because it's a bit of a shame, really, because he's great. We then got our second title change of the night in 2 matches. And I felt like maybe this is where we were going here. We were just going to get a night full of title changes. And in 5 matches, we did get... the last one was always going to be a change. It was a new champ, whatever happened. But we got 3 new champions. So then we got Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaimed. Now, I was critical after the pay-per-view All Out that the Acclaim didn't win the titles. I thought it was the right time to put them on them. They were so over the match. Like, the crowd was going mental for them. But I do understand the delay here. And this is why sometimes you do have to let things play out. And that's, an example of the first thing I just mentioned there. Because here, they obviously plan to do this match again. Well, did they or not? I don't know. But they did do the match again in front of, I think it was one of their hometowns as well. So it's like a local crowd to them. Against Swerve and Our Glory, the Acclaim did their rap as they always do at the start. And they won the titles here. So in the end, it worked out fine. You could argue, why didn't they just do that in the first place? I'd understand that. I always think that when you do that and then you put the titles on someone, a bit like the Damage Control situation in WWE, they didn't put the title on them in the first match, then they beat them a couple of weeks later. You think, well, why not just do it in the first place if that's what you want to do? But there are reasons sometimes, and there are storyline reasons why you do it. But yeah, I mean, Keith Lee in this match was insane. He did a crazy Hurricane Rana. A man his size, it's been said a million times how agile he is. You don't need me to tell you this, but yeah, just awesome. Caster selling an injury in this match as well quite a lot. There was a miscommunication at one point between Keith Lee and Swerve with the boombox. They've done that a couple of times. They did that in the first match. I think they had 2 miscommunications where they hit each other accidentally. So that I think they're going to play into that when they eventually split, which probably won't be soon. Now they've lost the titles, I think you can split them fairly soon because there's so many tag teams in AEW. I like them as a team. I really do. I think they've been cool. And I'm glad they got a title run. I think that was awesome. But I think Keith Lee is a top star and Swerve could be a 2. So, you can easily use them in a singles division that needs freshen up and a little bit at the top end, I think. We'll talk about that when we get to sort of the main event, I guess. But yeah, pleased for the Acclaimed. They're like, I saw someone tweeting yesterday about it, saying they feel like the first proper homegrown from the bottom upwards to sort of reach the very top now. And I think that's a fair point. I mean, you could argue obviously MJF, but he hasn't won the world title yet. But the Acclaimed started off wrestling on Dark. They weren't really... I wasn't sure on them at first because I thought their raps were a little bit... I thought they were hit and miss. But they've grown on me and they've grown on a lot of people over time. They've got more over and better in the ring, I think, as well, crucially. To the point now where they've reached the top and they're like one of the top acts in AEW and now they're the champions. So yeah, really, really pleased for them. I think they absolutely deserve it. They've been awesome. We then got a little interview with Willie Utah on the stage, but it was quickly interrupted by MJF, who got a big pop. they went back and forth on the mic, and I mean, MJF just ate Utah alive here. He's not the most charismatic, Willie Utah. He's a great wrestler, but yeah, MJF had him here. I mean, he had a couple of decent lines back, Utah, but it just, it didn't. MJF was just ripping into him, I mean, Utah mentioned his engagement, which was kind of cool, but yeah, then mentioning Regal popping pills pushes Utah's buttons too much. They brawl. Tony gets pushed over as well. Tony Schiavone, a little bit of a brawl, but then W. Morrissey comes out and chokes Utah, and MJF hit him with a diamond ring. So I think we're obviously going to get a match between those two soon, probably before MJF cashes in his chip for the world title. I think we'll get MJF have a match because he hasn't had one really, has he? I mean, he walked it. Literally, he was gone for months. Walked in, got handed the chip, and then he's probably going to win the world title when he cashes that in. But I think it's a good idea for him to have at least one or two warm-up matches, beat people on the way to it. And I think Willie Utah's a fine person for him to beat now that Utah's not got his championship anymore. We then got Pac versus Orange Cassidy. And this was, again, a match we've seen quite a lot. I wasn't overly interested in this, and we got Pac retaining here. Probably like the weakest thing on the show for me. Not in terms of the match wasn't bad or anything, but just like the result was kind of predictable to me. And there was no after angle that made it particularly interesting. Pac did use a hammer to win from the ring bell outside, which was slightly different. Didn't expect that, but there was some great wrestling in this match. There was a cool spot where Pac was about to do the Black Arrow. Orange just casually put both legs up in the air to stop him doing it. I liked that. Not seen that before. And yeah, like Pac's selling of the DDTs and stuff was awesome. Orange was flying at one point, and he is great when he gets going. And this match was solid, but like I say, there was nothing to get too excited about here in terms of what this means going forward. Pac gets a win, which I think is the right booking decision because Pac, I know he's got obviously the 2 belts at the moment, but I think him being that Atlantic champion is important. And yeah, he suits it. He suits that belt. We then got a women's fatal 4-way for the AEW World Championship, Women's Championship. We did have some other little promo segments and stuff on this, backstage stuff and video packages, but I'm not going to run through many of them because a lot of them are just, little bits and pieces that set up things in the future that I'm sure we'll talk about when they actually really happen. I'm just going to stick to the actual main card itself and the things that happened in the ring and obviously the Utah interview, which was on the ramp. But yeah, the women's 4-way, Toni Storm, Serena Deeb, Britt Baker, Athena. I give this a little bit of criticism because it just feels like it's the same people over and over again. But we've added someone fresh into it now, which is really exciting. After this match, the match itself, there was, it was a good 4-way. There was multi-person spots a lot. Athena did some cool show of strength, some nice stuff. Deeb, great wrestling at times, submissions. Got a neck-breaking near fall on Storm at one point. There was a double submission spot where Storm and Deeb were doing it at the same time, and you're waiting for one of them to tap out. Nothing happened. But it ended when Toni Storm and Britt Baker were alone in the ring. Britt Baker went for the lockjaw, and Toni Storm rolled her up to win. And I think we've talked about roll-ups in the women's division on AEW many times before. They do them far too often in some finished matches. Toni winning, right, cool. Britt taking the pin, fine. Roll-ups, though, yeah, I'd wish it was a little bit more decisive from Toni Storm, to be honest, in this match. But, it is what it is. And I think, really, people were forgotten about that by the time the surprise happened. So there's a beatdown afterwards from the heels, Britt and Co, Jamie Hayter, etc. And then music hits, and I'm thinking, well, I don't recognize this music. What is it? And it was Saraya, formerly known as Paige, of course, in WWE. And I think that is a huge get for the women's division in AEW. A person who's literally had a film made about her. My Family is a good, quite successful film. Everyone knows Paige, I feel like. Obviously in the wrestling world, but even outside of the wrestling world, I saw it was on BBC News yesterday. I saw a tweet about it, like BBC News were tweeting and former Paige debuts in rival company and stuff. I was like, wow, okay. So she's a very relevant person, even though she hasn't wrestled in a few years because of her injuries. She was still in WWE. Obviously, that film helps. And I just feel like it's a massive get for AEW in their women's division, which was massively needed. They've had some really good signings. The likes of Toni Storm and Athena are great wrestlers, but they're not star power level of Saraya. So Saraya coming in, I think, is massive. And if she can wrestle, which it looks like from the AEW website, has got a win-loss record already on there, updated. It's obviously 0-0 at the moment. So that indicates to me that she's wrestling. And if she's wrestling, I think that's a great sign-in for AEW. And she should be right at the top of the card straight away. She'll be really over. And I think her and I would love to see a feud between her and sort of not Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, crucially, with the two English sort of girls going at it. Britt Baker was the one at the end that sort of looked shocked to see her, and obviously she interrupted her beatdown. So I think the first feud will be with Hayter and Britt, which is cool. And then maybe after that, you can have her go for Toni Storm and the title down the line if you want to put the title on someone new, fresh, because I think they do need that. I mean, Toni Storm's fairly new and fresh, but like Britt Baker's been champion before, Thunder Rosa's been champion before. All these people that kind of come in and up, and Hikaru Shida, for example, has been in title matches recently. They do need a freshening up, and I think Saraya really, really adds that to their division. I think it's a great signing. Can't praise that one enough, to be honest. It was a genuine shock. I didn't expect that. I thought, when she left WWE, I thought probably she was done with wrestling, to be honest. I didn't know if she'd get cleared by doctors. Didn't think she'd stay on in WWE and come back in any other role. I would have liked to have seen her even do that. But yes, for her to be actually back and potentially wrestling is fantastic. And then we got the main event, of course, the AEW World Championship Tournament final decider between Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. Of course, two Blackpool Combat Club members going face-to-face, two friends, and they had a really good match. It was a really good match. There wasn't loads to say about it. It was just a typical Moxley match. It was a typical Danielson match in a lot of ways. Lots of good strikes, submissions, near falls with like the Psycho knee and stuff like that. Loads of good wrestling, chopping each other. Couple of good, he calls it the Death Rider now, not the Paradigm Shift, but a couple of Death Riders as well that got near falls. One on the ramp, I think, as well. So there's lots of great wrestling here. And I thought Bryan was going to win this match. But no, Jon Moxley wins again to be the 3-time, before anyone's even been a 2-time. No one's even been a 2-time champ other than Moxley. And Moxley's now a 3-time AEW champion. It shows the trust they have in him to sort of carry this brand. He's done it from day one. Maybe that's why they went for him over Bryan. Yeah, Moxley wins the title for the 3rd time. I do feel like it's going to be another transitional run. I feel like it's only a matter of time before MJF cashes in that chip and wins the title. I don't see it not happening. Now that he's got that, he has to win. So it's nearly MJF time, I feel. But it's still cool for Moxley to have that achievement of 3 title wins. And like I say, the effect of Punk and Omega not being around, and the Bucks. I thought the product. I mean, Punk was gone for a while anyway, and then had only just come back. Omega had been gone for a while, and he'd just come back. But I'm surprised a little bit how they've turned this around in terms of viewership figures have been steady, if not going up, since this happened. I think people wanted to see the controversy and where it goes. I think that's part of it. But I also think the quality of the shows has been pretty good recently. And we've not had the Bucks, we've not had Omega, we've not had Punk at the top end, and it's other people are getting a chance to shine. They have been for the last few months with Omega and Punk not there anyway, and I feel like they're putting their trust in the likes of Bryan, Mox, the Acclaimed, Jericho still on, going at the top. Yeah, it's interesting, the dynamic that's come out of this. Reports are that CM Punk probably won't be coming back to AEW, and there'll be some legal agreement made where he won't come back. I think obviously the Young Bucks and the Kenny Omega will come back, and I'm sure they'll be great when they do. But yeah, it has surprised me a little bit how the product's kind of recovered, and it seems to be doing quite well without them. And yeah, this was, like I said, it was a good main event. Surprise result. I thought maybe at the end we'd get a confrontation with MJF, or maybe he'd even cash it in now and win. Like I know Tony Khan has said it's not like the Money in the Bank. You can't just do that. It has to be like a pre-agreed match. which makes it different from the Money in the Bank, which is good. You don't want to copy and paste the Money in the Bank. I think the Money in the Bank concept is unbelievable, but you can't just copy it. Do you know what I mean? I think them doing their own spin on it makes it better. So I think down the line, it won't be long before MJF does that, and MJF finally gets his moment at the top to be the first real. I mean, Hangman Page as well was not an ex-WWE guy, but he feels like the first real pillar, if you like, of AEW to reach the world title status, and he was always going to be the one. And I think they've got to do whatever it takes to keep him there, because if they do lose him to WWE, it's not game over, but it'll be a massive blow. And I know there's still a while yet to go on his contract. I did think he might go after all the drama, but now he's back, and if they put the world title on him, they've agreed to pay him more without the extension. They'll probably give him an extension in 2024. I think he stays, and he'll probably get paid even more money then. I think he ends up staying at AEW, but it'll be interesting to see. Lots going on in that show. And yeah, this show was really good. Like I say, 3 title changes, a big debut. MJF sort of lurking around watching. We sat up in the stands watching the main event with popcorn was cool. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on there, and a lot of it is exciting. There's still things they can improve on. I think the women's division still needs work, even though they got the debut of Saraya. I think tag team division is going to be interesting going forward. What do they do with the likes of FTR? Obviously, the Bucks aren't there. So there's some stuff to work on, but the show is gradually getting back to its best. Where I think it's been on a bit of a downer the last few months, but this last couple of weeks been pretty impressive. Anyway, I'm going to start rambling there because I think I've gone on long enough talking to myself. If you enjoyed this video, like I say, subscribe to the channel. We've got podcasts, we've got videos from live events, Clash at the Castle, etc. that we've been to that have done really well in viewing. We might have some more gaming content come in. Little teaser there. I want to do a MyGM mode. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it yet, but I want to. We've got one already on the channel. If you want to go back and binge watch a MyGM mode from Keeney, it's really good on the channel as well. So we've got lots of content. Keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter at Recharge Wrestle. I've been Fisher, and I'll see you soon.